Welcome to Learn This Game, where you can learn about tabletop games and how they are played. In this presentation, we'll be learning how to play the deluxe edition of Malta Besieged, 1940 to 1942. In this video, there'll be a general description and overview of the game. We'll inventory the components, and we'll go through gameplay, including setup, sample turns, and victory conditions. There are helpful links in the description, as well as a timestamp index. If you want to go straight to the setup and gameplay, you can go to the timestamp index now. And if you find this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. You can also leave a comment to share your experience, or let us know what game you'd like to see reviewed. Your participation really does help the channel continue to grow and provide more content. Malta Besieged was first published by Worthington Games in 2011, and the deluxe version was published in 2021. The game was designed by Steve Carey. In this solitaire historical war game set in the Mediterranean in World War II, you will command the Allied forces as they defend Malta from an Axis invasion. This game is recommended for ages 14 and older. The difficulty level is moderate, and each game takes up to 2 hours to play. The game is intended for solo play only. There are no multiplayer variants. An app is not required, and there are no apps available for this game. Malta Besieged is a States of Siege type game. If you like this style of game, you may enjoy these other States of Siege games. This style of game will be explained in greater detail during the overview of this presentation. You may also search the internet using the phrase States of Siege games in order to find additional games. Now that you've seen a brief introduction to the game, let's get into the game itself. This is a solitaire historical card-driven war game that uses a map, cards, counters, and one six-sided die. This is a States of Siege style game. Thematically, the game is based on the Axis attacks on Malta, defended by the Allies during World War II. States of Siege games are usually solo games where one player must defend against enemies attacking from several directions until the player can survive until the objective is achieved, such as surviving through a deck of cards, as in this game. In this game, the solo player must defend Malta in the center of the board from 5 fronts advancing simultaneously from multiple directions. These include the German Air Force, the Italian Air Force, the Italian Navy, German U-boats, and the Italian Army. In this game, the Italian Army will be fighting in North Africa and not directly advancing on Malta. Now let's see how the game is won. There are 3 ways to win the game with 1 draw condition and 3 ways to lose the game. Victory and defeat checks are made in the last part of each turn, known as the housekeeping phase. The victory check can result in one of 4 ways. We can achieve an overwhelming victory if all 5 Axis fronts are either in the highest numbered box on their tracks or in the holding box. If we have completed all of the cards and the Africa Corps front has retreated into the holding box, we have achieved a decisive victory. This is the historical outcome. If we have completed all of the cards and at least controlled Tobruk, we have a marginal victory. However, if we have completed all of the cards but do not control the Tobruk box, then the game ends in a draw. There are 3 ways to lose the game. If all 3 resource tracks are at 0 during the housekeeping phase, we are defeated. If the Africa Corps front is in the Alexandria box, or if it is ever in the Cairo box at any time during the game, we also suffer a defeat. Rommel entering the Cairo box during the game results in an instant defeat for the Allies. If 1 or more Axis fronts occupy the Malta box, and we fail the Operation Hercules check, we may suffer a catastrophic defeat, a disastrous defeat, or a strategic setback depending on which of the 3 epochs we are in. At the end of the game, we can record the results of the game and note the victory or defeat level. Now let's look at the components. Malta Besieged comes with one 20-page color rulebook that includes optional rules, an example of play, and designer notes. There is one mounted game board depicting Malta and the surrounding Mediterranean area, including the North African front. There are 49 event cards. There is one counter sheet. There is one convoy display mat. There is one logbook to track the results of each game, and one red 6-sided die. Now let's set up the game for our sample playthrough. First, we'll place the board in the play area. We will follow the sequence of play which is printed in the upper right corner of the board. We will also place the convoy display mat and red die nearby. We will place the logbook aside until the end of the game, when we'll record the results of our victory, draw, or defeat. We will now place the initial markers. We will start with the axis front markers. As noted, there are a total of 5 axis fronts. We place 3 of the 5 axis front markers with their proper starting battle values on their starting spaces, which are marked on the board with the word START. The front markers for the Luftwaffe and U-boats are initially placed out of play. We then place the 3 resource markers with their improvement values showing. The starting spaces are marked with the word START. These tracks represent the military, supply, and morale values of Malta. We cannot have more than 5 or less than 0 of each resource type. We place the Admiral Cunningham marker on its available side in its status box. The convoy hits marker is placed on the 0 on the convoy attack hits track. We then place the dice roll modifier markers and the Malta Fort Improvement Unit in the holding box. We set the remaining markers out of play for now. We then sort the event cards by their title color into 3 epochs. The card numbers are listed in the upper right corner of the cards. The first epoch consists of cards 1 to 15, the middle consists of cards 16 to 32, and the last consists of cards 33 to 49. Each deck is coded by its own color in the headline background. The cards numbered with a red box are considered seeded cards. For the first epoch, this means removing card number 1 and shuffling the remaining cards in this deck and placing those cards face down in the draw pile box on the board. We then take the number 1 card and place it face down on top of the deck, so it'll be the first card we draw when we start playing the game. The other 2 epochs also have seeded cards, but both decks are placed aside for now. When we have exhausted the first deck, we will replenish the draw pile with the second deck, which will then be replaced by the third deck when the second deck is exhausted. Now let's see how the game is played. We will play the 3 sample turns presented in the rulebook to demonstrate the sequence of play and will include 1 convoy card. The example play demonstrates the game mechanics and not optimal strategic play. Most of the phases in a turn correspond to the event cards. The headline phase involves drawing the card, the military phase, the resources phase, and the orders phase are then played in order as listed on each card. The housekeeping phase is outlined in detail in the upper right corner of the board for easy reference. We start turn 1 with the headline phase and draw the top card from the draw pile, which we place face up in the discard pile. The cards act as the game timer, and one of our goals is to complete all of the cards for all 3 epochs without being defeated. Each drawn card is considered a turn, and we must perform the items listed on the card in strict order from top to bottom. These will include the military, resources, and orders phases. The top of the card shows the headline, epic color, and card number. The next section shows we receive 1 action this turn. The next section shows some historical flavor text, which is not mandatory to read. The military section shows advancing units and other notes. In this case, the Italian Air Force advances 1 space on its track from the 3 space to the 2 space. The next section refers to the 3 resource tracks at the bottom of the board: military, supply, and morale. On this turn, there are no gains or losses. The orders section displays the die roll modifiers this turn. We then place the appropriate markers on the military and morale tracks, in addition to the Italian Army and naval fronts. We have 1 action this turn. We can spend an action to do any of the following if they apply this turn. If we have enough actions, there is generally no limit to how many actions we can spend each turn to do something. Failure or success on prior attempts does not limit future attempts. With just 1 action available, we must consider our opening move. Rommel's situation track cannot be raided in this first epoch since it does not become active until the start of the next epoch. We cannot purchase the Ultra marker since it is not yet available, and we cannot conduct air support because this is not a convoy card. We choose to attempt to obtain a resource. We can attempt to increase our military, supply, or morale resources, which are tracked at the bottom of the board. We will attempt to increase morale, which currently has a resource improvement value of 2, as indicated on its resource counter. We also have to recall that we have a -1 die roll modifier this turn for this resource track. We now have to roll 1 die and obtain a higher result than the resource improvement value of 2, while also deducting the -1 die roll modifier. Throughout the game, we'll be rolling 1 6-sided die to resolve various actions. Regardless of any die roll modifiers on any player actions, a natural roll of 1 always results in a failure, while a natural 6 always results in success. We roll a 3, which is higher than 2, but must deduct 1, resulting in a final die roll of 2. Since our final modified roll of 2 is not greater than the resource improvement value of 2, we fail to increase our morale. The morale marker is not moved. We are now out of actions for this turn. We have the option of spending 1 supply point for 1 extra action, but decide not to this turn. Since no other phases apply, we move to the housekeeping phase to end the turn. Since there was no convoy this turn, and there was no result from the victory and defeat checks, the only task is to return the DRM markers back to the holding box. Turn 1 is now over. We start turn 2 with the headline phase and draw the next event card. We see that we have 2 actions this turn which will take in the orders phase. For the military phase, we advance the Italian Navy front by 1 space on their track. In the resources phase, we must move the morale marker down 1 space. We also place the ultra marker in the holding box with the ready side up. It is now ready for purchase. In the orders phase, we are instructed to place 4 die roll modifier markers. We can now take our 2 actions. Our first action will be to move the ultra marker from the holding box to ready side up in the active ultra box. The ultra marker can be spent for convoy escorts or intelligence. For now, we'll leave it in ready status. For our second and last action this turn, we will attack the Italian Air Force front. In order to drive the Italian Air Force back 1 space, we must roll higher than their battle value indicated on their front marker, which in this case is 2. We must also apply the -1 die roll modifier this turn. We roll a 4. After deducting 1 due to the modifier, we still have a result of 3, which is higher than the 2 on the front marker, so we can move the front marker back to the 3 space on its track. We again decline to convert 1 supply point to an action, so this concludes the orders phase. In the housekeeping phase, we do not meet the victory or defeat conditions, so we only need to return the die roll modifier markers back to the holding box and prepare for the next turn. To start turn 3, we flip over the next card. This card's headline has a red banner and the convoy battle icon. These indicate that this is a convoy card. The card also indicates how many supply are at risk for this particular convoy. This will also be shown on the convoy display mat. In the military phase, the Italian Navy advances 1 box on its track. The unit is currently on the 1 box on its track, but it cannot enter the Malta 0 box without passing a test against the island's intrinsic fort printed on the map. The axis must roll higher than the battle value of 2 printed on the fortification. There are no die roll modifiers. We also have the option of using Cunningham to halt the Italian Navy's advance before it tries to defeat the Malta fortress. Once per epoch, we can use Admiral Cunningham to cancel a card's indicated advance of a single axis front, except for the Africa Corps on the North Africa front. We choose not to use it this turn. The roll is a 1, so the test fails and the Italian Navy marker remains on its number 1 box. We must now choose whether or not to use the available and ready ultra marker to provide additional escort for the convoy. We can use it now in the military phase for the convoy, or later for intelligence in the orders phase. We decide to withhold the marker and take our chances with the Italians against the convoy. The Axis will now attack the convoy. The German units are not yet in play, so they cannot attack at this time. Also, the Italian army in North Africa never attacks convoys. We flip the Italian air and naval units to their convoy battle side and align the counters with the hit numbers in their spaces. The Axis units must roll higher than their box numbers to score hits. The Italian Air Force attacks first and rolls a 1. This is a miss. Next, the Italian Navy attacks where a result of 5 or 6 would be a critical hit. They roll a 4, so a single hit is scored. We place the convoy hits marker on the 1 space on the convoy attack track at the top of the board. For critical hits, we would advance the hits marker 2 spaces. We then flip the Italian units back to their battle value side. There are no resources gained or lost this turn. We are now in the orders phase. We place the die roll modifier markers per the orders section. Before we take our actions, we can freely expend the ultra marker for intelligence to reveal the next card on top of the draw pile. We must pass the counterintelligence check by rolling anything higher than a 1. We roll a 3, which allows us to reveal the next card at this time. We draw card number 15 and place it face up on the draw pile since it is not yet the next turn. We are only previewing what is to come next. The second benefit we received from successfully activating Ultra is being able to place a +1 die roll modifier on any active Axis front or the raid box. We place the modifier on the Italian Navy unit. Once expended, the Ultra marker is returned to the holding box where it can be repurchased later. We can see from previewing the next event card that we will lose 1 supply and 1 morale next turn, so it is important that we bring home the current convoy. We can now take our 2 actions since we are in the orders phase. We will get 3 actions next turn when we start resolving the Malta Gets Mined card we are currently previewing. We take our first action attempting to increase our military resource track. We roll a 4 and fail since we did not roll higher than the 4 value indicated on the military marker. We will spend our second and last action attacking the Italian Air Force front, knowing they will attack next turn per our preview. We roll a 3. With the die roll modifier of +1, we have a final result of 4, which is greater than the battle value of 2 on the Italian Air Force unit. This unit must then retreat to box 4 on its front. Since we do not know if the convoy will successfully deliver its supply points, we hold on to our current 2 supply points instead of converting them to actions. This concludes the current orders phase. During the housekeeping phase, the convoy arrives. Each convoy card has a corresponding entry on the convoy display mat. Looking at the hats table on the convoy mat to resolve the 1 hit, we see that there's a 2/3 chance we will lose 1 of its supply points. We roll a 1, which means there is no loss, so we receive both supply points. We can then move our supply marker from box 2 to box 4 on the supply track. This is important because supply generates extra actions during the orders phases. If a roll does result in a loss, such as if we had rolled a 5, we would place a supply loss marker on the appropriate space. Duplicate hits on the display are ignored if there are multiple die rolls. We receive a convoy bonus action due to the convoy's safe arrival. Even if just 1 supply arrives, it is considered a successful arrival of the convoy. As a result of the safe arrival, we also receive an additional +1 die roll modifier for our morale resource, should we decide to roll for morale with our free bonus action. Thanks to our Ultra preview, we know we will lose 1 morale point next turn in addition to incurring a -1 die roll modifier for all resources. We choose to roll for morale with a convoy bonus die roll modifier of +1. We roll a 6, which is an automatic success even without the +1 modifier. We then move our morale to box 3. We return all die roll modifiers back to the holding box and place the convoy hits marker in the 0 box. Since no victory or defeat conditions have been met, this turn is now over. To start the next turn, we move the card we just previewed from the draw pile face up to the discard pile and complete the next turn based on this card. This concludes the sample turns for Malta Besieged. There are several optional rules that may be used in any combination to vary your play experience. In order to experience a more historically accurate game, you can stack all of the cards into a single deck in ascending numerical order and play them in that order. There are also several optional rules that give the player an advantage, such as breaking U-boat codes, making Admiral Cunningham available more than once per epoch, making Ultra available from the setup, and giving the player some help on the North African front. You can also make the game more difficult by increasing penalties on the Royal Navy based on the success of the Africa Corps. This concludes this review of Malta Besieged. Visit us at these sites and don't forget to leave a comment about your experience with this game, or let us know what game you'd like to see reviewed next. And if you'd like to experience something more exciting than defending a large rock in the middle of the sea, stick around for our disclaimer. Coming up next.